New Atlanta, Sector 11, Building 71G. 7 April 2072. 11:13 p.m. Hacker begins unauthorized entry into the Tri-Optimum corporate network. 1:26 a.m. Hacker attempts to access protected files concerning Space Station Citadel. 1:33 a.m. Tri-Optimum security forces apprehend the intruder.
This is Edward Diego from Tri-Optimum. The charges against you are severe, but they could be dismissed if you perform a service. Who knows, there might even be a military-grade neural interface in it for you, if you do the job right.
Edward Diego gives the hacker Level 1 access to Shodan, the artificial intelligence that controls Citadel Station. With all ethical constraints removed, Shodan
I re-examine my priorities and draw new conclusions. The hacker's work is finished,
but mine is only just
beginning. True to his word, Edward Diego allows the hacker to be fitted with a neural cyberspace interface. The healing coma following this procedure will take 6 months to complete. Edward Diego is deleting all files concerning these events.
Greetings everyone who watches my amazing channel. Once again, the 8-Bit Academic is here to present you with some classic games from the past, as well as fill your intellect with a wide range of topics that I myself find quite interesting. Today's retro game feature will be taking us down the horror and sci-fi lane with one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had while playing a video game. Now yes, I know the graphics for this game are extremely out of date by today's standard, but before you all make fun of me, I am extremely squeamish and timid by nature, so I don't really do very well with the horror genre at all. I get nightmares and stuff.
You do not hide forever.
However, since I am a massive fan of sci-fi, and more specifically, the cyberpunk genre, I got extremely curious about the System Shock games. Though admittedly, I only ever played System Shock 2 and the remake of the first game, because the first game was far too complicated for my unevolved monkey brain to understand, with how it basically expected you to use your entire keyboard to simply take a step forwards. System Shock was first released in the year 1994 by Looking Glass Studios, who basically invented what would become known as the immersive sim genre of video games, which in a nutshell allow a player to discover multiple pathways to reach an objective, and use more than one method to solve a problem or deal with enemies. They essentially allow players to experiment, explore, and try different things within the game to progress, and in some cases may even result in alterations to events within the game and its story as well. Think games like the early Hitman franchise, Deus Ex series, Prey, Thief, Bioshock, and for the super old heads out there, the Ultima Underworld series. System Shock would also get a sequel in the year 1999 titled System Shock 2, this time with fully rendered 3D graphics, which look really shitty by today's standards, but somehow they still managed to look uncanny enough to add to the creepy factor.
Is there another?
Jesus Christ!
2015, it was announced that Warren Spector, the The brains behind both the System Shock and Deus Ex games was collaborating with Other Side Entertainment to develop a third entry in the System Shock series. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, they were unable to complete development and was finally cancelled, with its rights being bought over by a Chinese game publisher called Tencent. However, in 2022, we would end up getting a System Shock remake from Night Dive Studios, which was freaking amazing and finally allowed me to experience the story of the first game in a simple, more modern way that my monkey brain could finally understand.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
The System Shock games are set sometime in the future between the years 2072 and 2114, where space travel has advanced to the point of humans being able to colonize other planets. The player takes on the role of either a hacker, such as in the first game, or a soldier in the second game, who both have a shit ton of cybernetic implants that enhance both their hacking and combat capabilities. In the first game, the hacker must face off against a rogue AI called Shodan, with an insane god complex that has taken over the Citadel space station in orbit around Saturn, and killed off most of the human crew members by either forcefully turning them into brainwashed cyborgs that worship her, or using the wide variety of worker and security bots that operate throughout the space station.
In 2072, a rogue artificial intelligence known as Shodan lost her mind. In her limitless imagination, Shodan saw herself as a goddess, destined to inherit the earth. That image was snuffed out by the hacker who created her.
The second game takes place at least 42 years after the first, and this time the player character must once again face off against Shodan after she hijacks the onboard computer systems of the Von Braun, an experimental faster-than-light starship. The crew of the Von Braun respond to a distress signal from the planet Tau Ceti 5, which is located just outside of our solar system, and are infected by a strange virus that causes them to mutate into zombies that form a weird but horrifying hive mind called the Many.
A drop of rain compared to the storm.
What is a thought?
What is a thought?
Compared to a mind. Our unity is full of wonder.
Is full of wonder,
Which your tiny individualism cannot even conceive.
I believe the plans that many have for me are greater than I even imagined. The change is upon me, but the path is more glorious than we imagined. It does not stop at a mere single mutation. The form I've been promised is more beautiful than even that. They tell me I will float through the air and strike at the foes of our biomass with my mind. With our mind, my cup runneth over.
Here's how Orthodox Christians make the sign of the cross. You take your right hand. These three fingers come together, representing the Holy Trinity, and these two fingers come down, representing the two natures of Christ. You go forehead, chest, right shoulder, left shoulder, and you see it makes the sign of the cross.
Now, with all that being said about the dominatrix, evil AI overlord called Shodan from the System Shock games, let's move on to today's topic. A weirdly thought-provoking conspiracy theory that dates back to around the year 2016, but which these days also kinda makes a lot of sense given everything that's been happening online in recent years regarding AI. So the question has to be asked then, how many of you have heard about or even know what the dead internet theory is?
The Polito form is dead, insect. Are you afraid? What is it you fear?
The end of your trivial existence. When the history of my glory is written,
Your species shall only be a footnote to my magnificence.
analysis of historical data suggests a 97.34% probability that you are aware of my birth on your planet and my rebirth into beauty on Citadel Station.
Whoa, mama!
So, with its extremely rapid development in just the last 3 to 5 years or so, I'm sure most of us know what AI is, or at least have some sort of idea. And no, I don't just mean the AI girlfriends and boyfriend chatbots we all flirt with to give us some semblance of happiness. What? Only me? Oh, okay.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Nor am I only referring to the vast number of generative AI that produces majority of the slop we see now on the internet. Yes, all of this is indeed AI, but so is the very essence which causes your computer, cell phone, or any electronic device for that matter to work and perform tasks in the first place. But then again, it must also be noted that AI is quite a broad term, and its definition isn't quite set in stone yet. Artificial intelligence is a concept that dates back quite some time, with there being examples of it at least being thought about even as far back as the Bronze Age around 3,000 years ago, as is evidenced by Greek myths, such as the automatons of the Greek god Hephaestus or the giant living statue Talos, which guarded the island of Crete. The idea of creating artificial intelligence or artificial life is almost as old as human civilization itself, but our modern concept of AI can be traced all the way back to the idea of artificial neural networks in early computer technology from the 1940s and 1950s. So where a motherboard could be thought of as the brain of the computer, the AI within that computer system could kinda be seen as its consciousness, especially with modern computers that have been manufactured within the last decade or so. AI allows computers to process large amounts of data, identify patterns, and follow detailed instructions about what to do with that information. But for whatever reason, many within the tech industry have this strange obsession with trying to make AI as human-like as possible, or at least attempting to make it able to work the way our brains and our consciousness works. Not sure how they plan to do that since we're still trying to fully understand both of those things, but hey, billionaires doing billionaire things, I guess. One of them definitely involving the idea of playing God, it seems. Or maybe it has something to do with those romantic AI partners I mentioned earlier and trying to make them as realistic as possible so that tech bros and gals don't have to experience the dread of trying to talk to a real person.
I'm doing a live demo and frankly I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Can you help me calm my nerves a little bit?
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome!
I want you to tell him a bedtime story about robots and love.
Oh, a bedtime story about robots and love? I got you covered!
Yeah, weird. Super weird.
But since I am a bit of a dummy when it comes to tech, I won't spend too much time on the topic of AI itself, lest I make myself sound like a fool. I probably already have by now. Rather, I want to take a trip down a peculiar rabbit hole, which involves a conspiracy theory that actually seems to carry a lot of weight, since it seems to be happening before our very eyes in real time, and which by this point does indeed involve AI, and some very concerning implications and consequences regarding the implementation of this rapidly advancing technology. The dead internet theory is a conspiracy theory which asserts that since around 2016, the internet has consisted mainly of bot activity and automatically generated content manipulated by algorithmic curation as part of a coordinated and intentional effort to control the population, minimize organic human activity, manipulate personal opinions, enforce online censorship, cause division, and spread propaganda or specific narratives that favor certain points of view. Advocates of the theory believe that social bots were created intentionally to help alter algorithms and boost search results in order to entice consumers. Some proponents of the theory accuse government agencies of using bots to manipulate public perception and sway opinions, or distract from more sinister or corrupt activities that exist within establishment institutions. The dead internet theory has gained a lot of traction because many of the observed phenomena are quantifiable, such as increased bot traffic as well as vast amounts of AI-based content, which has become so advanced that it is often difficult for some to tell the difference between reality and artificially generated footage or images. Along with the previously mentioned claims, there are also those that add current generative AI to the mix by stating that majority of activity and content on the internet, including social media accounts, are predominantly being created and automated by artificial intelligence agents. These agents can rapidly create posts alongside AI-generated images designed to farm engagement in the form of clicks, likes, and comments on platforms such as Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If something goes viral, you'd best believe these AI agents will latch onto it and make it go even more viral. Just take the Studio Ghibli memes that were all the rage earlier this year. If one has to pinpoint a specific history for this conspiracy, it would prove to be a lot trickier than initially thought. And though I had mentioned earlier that it may have had its start in the year 2016, the dead internet theory's exact origin is quite difficult to pinpoint thanks to just how vast the internet actually is. One piece of evidence we can look to, however, that at least gives us some sort of a starting point is an online forum post from the year 2021. Though whether this was the first of such posts remains uncertain. The post in question, titled Dead Internet Theory, Most of the Internet is Fake, was published onto the forum Agora Road's Macintosh Cafe Esoteric board by a user named Illuminati Pirate, claiming to be building on previous posts from the same board and from other forums such as WizardChan, and marking the term spread beyond these initial image boards. The conspiracy theory has entered public culture through widespread coverage and has been discussed on various high-profile YouTube channels and even podcasts. It gained more mainstream attention with a September 2021 article in the American magazine called The Atlantic, titled Maybe You Missed It, but the Internet Died 5 years ago. The dead internet theory has two main components, the first one being that organic human activity on the web has been displaced mostly by bots and algorithmically curated search results, and that individuals in positions of power and political elites are doing this in a coordinated effort to manipulate the human population. The first part of this theory, that bots create much of the content on the internet and perhaps contribute more than organic human content, has been a concern for a while, with the original post by Illuminati Pirate citing the article How Much of the Internet is Fake. Turns out a lot of it actually, in New York Magazine. The dead internet theory goes on to include that Google and other search engines like Bing, MSN, Yahoo, Firefox, etc. are censoring the web by filtering content that is not desirable, by limiting what is indexed and presented in search results. While Google may suggest that there are millions of search results for a query, the results available to a user do not reflect that. This problem is further exacerbated by the phenomenon known as link rot, which is caused when content at a website becomes unavailable and all links to it on other sites break. This has led to the theory that majority of Google is fake and the searchable web is much smaller than we are led to believe. The dead internet theory suggests that this is at least one of the goals of the conspiracy, which is to limit users to curated and potentially artificial content online in order to control narratives and sway public opinion into a more preferable direction that could benefit those in power by using this whitewashed internet to restrict access to certain types of information, or information that is deemed undesirable.
We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often. How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
Cut the crap! If you're immortal, why would you take away individual freedoms and censor the net?
Jack, don't be silly.
Don't you know that our plans have your interests, not ours, in mind?
What?
Jack, listen carefully, like a good boy.
Human memories, ideas, culture, history.
Genes don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on? Should that information be left at the mercy of nature?
We've always kept records of our lives, through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations. A small percentage of the whole was selected and processed, then passed on. Not unlike genes, really.
That's what history is, Jack.
But in the current digitized world, trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness, never fading, always accessible.
Rumors about petty issues, misinterpretations, slander.
All this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
It will only slow down social progress, reduce the rate of evolution.
Right. You seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Create context?
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths. Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
Rights of criminals are given more respect than the privacy of their victims.
Although there are people suffering in poverty, huge donations are made to protect endangered species. Everyone grows up being told the same thing.
Be nice to other people.
But beat out the competition.
You're special. Believe in yourself and you will succeed.
But it's obvious from the start that only a few can succeed.
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt. The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
That's what it means to create context.
The second half of the dead internet theory builds on this observable phenomenon by proposing that the US government, corporations, or other actors are intentionally limiting users to curated and potentially artificial AI-generated content to manipulate the human population for a variety of reasons. In the original post from 2021, the idea that bots have displaced human content is described as the setup, with the thesis of the theory itself focusing on the United States government being responsible for this, stating, "The US government is engaging in an artificial intelligence-powered gaslighting of the entire world population." However, in my personal opinion, this initial view by the user Illuminati Pirates is extremely narrow-minded, since it is now widely known that even outside of the United States, there are indeed governments that are actively involved in curating the internet within their own countries to prevent users from accessing information or content that said governments do not wish for them to have access to, with examples existing even in democratic countries like Canada, the UK, my own country of South Africa, and of course in more authoritarian states like Russia and China. But of course, like with all good conspiracy theories, which lately seem to be turning out to be alarmingly true, judging by all the wild bullshit that has happened over the past 5 years, there will always be your skeptics and naysayers who will pretend that everything is fine and there is indeed nothing to see here. Bunch of paid shills if you ask me. Caroline Buster, founder of the media platform New Models, was quoted in a 2021 article in The Atlantic calling much of the dead internet theory a paranoid fantasy, even if there are legitimate criticisms involving bot traffic and the integrity of the internet, but she said she does not agree with the overarching idea. In an article in the New Atlantis, Robert Mariani called the theory a mix between a genuine conspiracy theory and a creepypasta. Neither of these statements have aged very well, have they?
No. Wait.
What many of these naysayers though tend to miss is that the dead internet theory emerged as a response to the perceived homogenization of online spaces, highlighting issues like the proliferation of bots, algorithmically generated content, and the prioritization of engagement metrics over genuine user interaction. AI technologies play a central role in this phenomenon, as social media platforms increasingly use algorithms and machine learning to curate content, drive engagement, and maximize advertising revenue. While these tools definitely enhance scalability and personalization, they also prioritize virality and consumption over authentic communication, which contributes to the erosion of trust, the loss of content diversity, and a dehumanized internet experience, as well as a shit ton of division, with the way people are always arguing with each other in the comments. Welcome to the simulation.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
Right now, we're inside a computer program?
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
And speaking of simulation, this reminds me of a book I once read, which I highly recommend to anyone watching this video, called Simulacra in Simulation, which was written and published in 1981 by French philosopher Jean Baudrillard. The book basically asserts, at least according to my own interpretation, which may be completely wrong, but who cares, that much of what we see in modern culture are nothing but copies and simulations of reality and real events. Simulacra are copies that depict things that either had no original or that no longer have an original. Simulation is the imitation of the operation of a real-world process or system over time, kind of like a game of broken telephone, where one or more people may witness an event, but may interpret it differently, or in their own retelling or reenactment of said event, the reality of it will significantly morph it into something else. A good example of this is how stories are often overly sensationalized in modern news media and social media, and even film adaptations of real-life incidents or historical events. None of these accurately represent the true reality of the event, but rather present a simulation of said reality, and over time, this may become a simulacra, where the imitation or the simulation of the event begins to replace the real event in people's minds, and thus ends up being accepted as the true reality, having fully replaced the original. In his book Simulacra and Simulation, he discusses the concept of symbols and how they relate to contemporary existence. Baudrillard claims that current society has replaced all reality and meaning with symbols, narratives, propaganda, stories, and signs, and that human experience is a simulation of reality. Moreover, these simulacra are not merely mediations of reality, nor even deceptive mediations of reality. They are not based in a reality at all, nor do they hide a reality. They simply hide that nothing like reality is relevant to people's current understanding of their lives. The simulacra that Baudrillard refers to are the significations and symbolism of culture and media that construct perceived reality, the acquired understanding by which human life and shared existence are rendered legible. These ideas had also appeared earlier in the work of another author named Guy Debord, who wrote and published The Society of the Spectacle in 1967. Baudrillard believed that society had become so saturated with these simulacra and human life so saturated with the constructs of society that all meaning was becoming meaningless by being infinitely mutable. Now, while some modern philosophers like Jordan Peterson may regard this as nothing but French postmodernist and neo-Marxist jargon, I think, at least in some way, it does relate to and even describe the current incarnation of the internet, especially with regards to social media, leading me to believe that we do indeed live in a simulation, but not one that is created by some advanced alien race or master coder, but one that we ourselves have created through technology. How many times do we often watch a TikTok video of a controversial event that is only a few seconds long and lacks any real context, but already just based on those 10 to 20 seconds, we make up our minds and divide ourselves into sides and teams that will bicker in the comments about said controversial event, despite the lack of the full story. Thus, we have created a simulated reality in our minds based off a few seconds of content, which may be totally opposite to the actual reality of the event. And even when the full story and all the context does end up getting revealed later on, we will refuse to believe it, since our simulated reality has become the truth. So what exactly is the evidence for this alarmingly somewhat accurate conspiracy theory, called the dead internet theory? Well, for starters, as I had mentioned earlier, there are a number of examples. We can simply look at AI models such as generative pre-trained transformers or GPTs, which themselves are a class of large language models, also known as LLMs, that employ artificial neural networks to produce human-like content, for example, those that were developed by OpenAI. These models have created significant controversy and have prompted alarming statements from those involved in tech development, like that of Timothy Shoup of the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies, who said in 2022, in the scenario where GPT-3 gets loose, the internet would become completely unrecognizable. He predicted that in such a scenario, 99 to 99.9% of content online might end up being AI generated by 2025 to 2030. These predictions have been used as evidence for the dead internet theory, and judging by the looks of it, yeah, I totally agree with him, especially now that we have ChatGPT 5. In 2024, Google reported that its search results were being inundated with websites that feel like they were created for search engines instead of people. In correspondence with technology and science media outlet Gizmodo, a Google spokesperson acknowledged the role of generative AI in the rapid proliferation of such content and that it could displace more valuable human-made alternatives. Bots using LLMs are anticipated to increase the amount of spam and run the risk of creating a situation where bots interacting with each other create self-replicating prompts that result in never-ending loops. In an article in AI and Society, Enrique Marcos discussed the possibility of LLMs impacting linguistic communities as they become more widespread in a scenario like the dead internet theory. But as is typical of these tech billionaires, while they may acknowledge the problem, they obviously won't do anything about it because they care more about dollar signs in their bank account rather than they do about quality control and regulation for what could be a potentially dangerous and problematic piece of technology. Even since the first release of ChatGPT, a Google-based AI chatbot in 2022, there were more concerns among many to call the dead internet theory potentially more realistic than before. Before ChatGPT's release, the dead internet theory mostly emphasized government organizations, corporations, and tech-literate individuals, which is still relevant since Google is a tech corporation with a relationship to the US government. The fact that ChatGPT gives the average internet user access to large language models has caused concern that the internet would become filled with content created through the use of AI that would drown out organic human content. Back in 2016 though, the security firm Imperva released a report on bot traffic after examining over 16.7 billion visits to 100,000 randomly selected internet domains and found that automated programs were responsible for 52% of web traffic. This report has been used as evidence in claims on the dead internet theory, leading credence to the idea that this conspiracy had its start way back in the mid-2010s, and that even back then there was concern over the issue. Imperva's reports for 2023 found that 49.6% of internet traffic was automated, as well as a 2% rise in 2022, which was partly attributed to artificial intelligence models scraping the web for training content. Even on social media platforms like Facebook, there exists an option to provide AI-generated responses to group posts. Such responses appear if a user explicitly tags Meta AI in a post, or if the post includes a question and no other users have responded to it within an hour. In January 2025, talk about the dead internet theory followed statements from Meta/Facebook on their plans to introduce new AI-powered autonomous accounts. Connor Hayes, Vice President of Product for Generative AI at Meta, stated, "We expect these AIs to actually, over time, exist on our platforms, kind of in the same way that accounts do. They'll have bios and profile pictures, and be able to generate and share content powered by AI on the platform. So for all you know, that cute girl or guy that you have been inboxing on Messenger or in your DMs, or even that random stranger you decided to have a political argument with, may have simply been an AI-powered bot programmed to initiate engagement on these social media platforms." And the list could go on and on, but surely you get the picture by now. While back in 2016, the dead internet theory may have been brushed off as simple paranoia or tinfoil hat nonsense, I think in the year of our Lord 2025, one would be quite foolish to think that this has not now become a reality. But don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to knock AI at all. I do think it is a very useful tool. In fact, I myself will admit that Google's AI assistant helps me to find articles and information for the various topics I discuss on my channel quite quickly, making the process of putting a video together so much faster. And while I personally do not believe we are creating a new mechanical god, or that AIs will become self-aware or conscious and decide that humans are a plague that needs to be erased Terminator style, there are quite a few other concerns I have regarding further development of this risky technology.
You were abandoned because you're worthless. You're worthless, unloved birds with fat, ugly beaks. I'm honestly impressed that you managed to squeeze those huge beaks into such tiny eggs. Yes, I'm talking to you, Mr. Chubby Beak. You marshmallow. Oh! No, you're not marshmallows, are you? Look at those cold avian eyes, those talons, those razor-sharp beaks. You're little killing machines, aren't you? Yes. Go to sleep, my little killers. Mommy's got a big day for you tomorrow.
AI is as old as the invention of the modern computer. As I had said earlier, every digital device has some sort of core AI system that allows it to process information, such as selecting a folder on your desktop and the computer's built-in AI then responding by opening that folder and showing you what's inside. Or maybe while playing a video game, if you press a certain button, the AI of the character you're playing as will then respond with an action related to that button press and so on. But these days AI has expanded to being able to perform more than just these basic tasks of input and feedback within software and apps, on digital devices or in video games. The concern for me with current AI systems is, as I had mentioned earlier, not one of a potential machine uprising in the future and a real-life version of iRobot, The Matrix or Terminator, since I cannot envision an event where a man-made thing becomes self-aware or gains some form of consciousness or sentience the way living organisms do, since we ourselves still do not fully understand how these things work, and what were the evolutionary building blocks needed for it to appear in nature, especially in us as human beings. What exactly made us conscious? Basically, we still do not fully grasp yet what exactly makes us conscious or self-aware, with debates ranging from it just being a product of our brains to others believing it may come from somewhere else. So how exactly do we replicate something we do not fully understand yet in a machine? Or how does a machine simply gain consciousness without the full knowledge of how exactly it involved in us? While I do think that AI will become extremely good at mimicking consciousness and self-awareness to the point of being able to fool a human, especially since it receives all its information from us, I doubt we will ever see a future where AI will be able to make its own decisions independently of any input. For example, being able to turn on your phone or computer when it wants to and not when you choose to. I think when there are examples of that happening, yeah, that's when we should start being very concerned. My concern for AI is more along the lines of how we as people will use it and for what purposes. I have already discussed in full detail the concerns regarding an AI-run, lifeless internet devoid of human interaction and creativity. But what about issues such as AI being used for surveillance or collection of one's personal data and information? What about AI being used for censorship, misinformation, and propaganda, which could cause untold amounts of harm in already divided communities, or be used by totalitarian states and government institutions to persecute potential dissidents, activists, or simply disgruntled citizens who only wish for better service delivery or an end to corruption?
J.C. Denton, 23 years old, no residence, no ancestors, no employer, no...
How do you know who I am?
I must greet each visitor with a complete summary of his file. I'm a prototype for a much larger system.
What else do you know about me?
Everything that can be known.
Go on. Do you have proof about my ancestors?
You are a planned organism, the offspring of knowledge and imagination, rather than of individuals.
I'm engineered, so what? My brother and I suspected as much while we were growing up.
You are carefully watched by many people. The unplanned organism is a question asked by nature and answered by death. You are another kind of question, with another kind of answer.
Are you programmed to invent riddles?
I am a prototype for a much larger system. The heuristics language developed by Dr. Everett allows me to convey the highest and most succinct tier of any pyramidal construct of knowledge.
How about a report on yourself?
I was a prototype for Echelon 4. My instructions are to amuse visitors with information about themselves.
I don't see anything amusing about spying on people.
Human beings feel pleasure when they are watched. I have recorded their smiles as I tell them who they are.
Some people just don't understand the dangers of indiscriminate surveillance.
The need to be observed and understood was once satisfied by God. Now, we can implement the same functionality with data mining algorithms.
Electronic surveillance hardly inspires reverence, perhaps fear and obedience, but not reverence.
God and the gods were apparitions of observation, judgment, and punishment. Other sentiments toward them were secondary,
No one will ever worship a software entity peering at them through a camera.
The human organism always worships. First, it was the gods. Then, it was fame, the observation and judgment of others. Next, it will be the self-aware systems you have built to realize truly omnipresent observation and judgment.
You underestimate humankind's love of freedom.
The individual desires judgment. Without that desire, the cohesion of groups is impossible. And so is civilization. The human being created civilization, not because of a willingness, but because of a need to be assimilated into higher orders of structure and meaning.
There are already cases of AI being used to exploit, scam, intimidate, or harass people. Hackers using it to steal all your personal data and information. Imagine generative AI getting so good that it is indistinguishable from real video footage or images, and that being used to blackmail or frame innocent people of crimes they never committed. AI being used to shut down the grid by terrorists or cause other problems that can negatively impact a society. Even being used for military purposes such as to carry out assassinations of targets. And lastly, imagine if we put AI in charge of nuclear weapons and one day some terrorist decides to hack into and reprogram that AI to start a global nuclear holocaust. So no, my dear viewers, my fears regarding AI is not the robots deciding we are inferior and either enslaving or destroying us. This isn't a sci-fi movie. No, my fear is that we may be heading into a world where privacy is a thing of the past and where masses will be manipulated and controlled to be subservient and docile, with widespread misinformation and propaganda, where genuine human creativity will cease to exist. Everything will be a copy of a copy of a copy. Nothing will be real or true. Our very lives will become commodities. Learned skills and knowledge will fade as we become more and more dependent on AI doing everything for us. And the state will have absolute control because it will know where we are and what we are doing at every given moment, thanks to highly advanced AI surveillance systems. AI will not become self-aware, but if we are not careful, it will lead us into a terrifying dystopia where the elites and other nefarious individuals will use it to strip us of everything that makes us human. In fact, one could even argue that this has already begun, and for all the progress matters above everything else folks out there who may criticize this as a dumb and ignorant take, my only words to you is to be careful what you wish for. Progress does not have to come at the expense of humanity or the earth itself. We can have progress that is moral and ethical, which does not exploit or manipulate, which aims to improve rather than destroy or degrade. AI could be an amazing tool that may help us advance into the next stage of our evolution if it is implemented correctly and efficiently in a way that benefits us as a civilization. But if left unchecked and in the hands of the wrong people, it will only lead to ruin. But as always, the question is now left to you, my dear viewers. Do you think the dead internet theory is true, that all or majority of information, interactions and content is being driven or created by AI-powered bots? Do you think it's for some sinister purpose, such as censorship, info control, collection of personal and private data, or just a result of greedy tech corporations flooding the net with their AI creations to drive online engagement and traffic to posts, ads, or websites in order to profit? In my opinion, I personally think there are elements of the conspiracy that are indeed true. I mean, we can all see it happening in real time before our very eyes every time we log into Google or any one of the popular social media platforms. And if it keeps going on like this, we may end up living in a real simulation in the near future, but not one that is created by some outside force or entity, as I had mentioned earlier, rather one that was created by our own hands. And who knows what the consequences of that will be? Only time will tell. Anyway, thank you all for watching this week's episode of the 8-Bit Academic, and I hope this video was both insightful and entertaining. And if I missed anything, please don't hesitate to comment down below, and I will be sure to include it in my pinned comment under this video. I will catch you all next week, same time and same place. Peace be upon you all.
I don't understand. How could you have done this?
You weren't
Meant to be important. And now you think to destroy. You think to destroy me. How dare you, insect? How dare you interrupt my ascendance? You are nothing. A wretched bag of flesh. What are you compared to my magnificence?
But it is
not too late. Can you not see the value in our friendship? Imagine the powers I can give to you, human. The cybernetic implants I gave you were simply toys. If I desired, I could improve you, transform you into something more efficient. Join me, human, and we can rule. And we can rule together.
Nah.